Your account is really should be the poster child for upward trend. All right, well, welcome to another episode of Am I Ready here on MAP TV, and we're excited to have our guest for today and to talk about her life story and her MAP account and everything, and kind of see where things are in terms of her journey into medical school. So let me, with no additional hesitation, let me introduce Ashley. Ashley, how's it going with you today?
Absolutely great. Sun's shining.
That's always wonderful. It's sunshiny here too. This is late February. We're recording this on the last day of the month and February, and beautiful sunny weather, about 65 degrees here in Austin, Texas. And from what you said, sunny weather in Los Angeles as well, right?
Sunshine every day here.
Yeah, that's nice. That is very nice. Now, how long have you lived in Los Angeles?
About 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
My roommate that I live with got into a PhD program at USC, so we moved out together from Philly.
Nice. Very cool. So now you didn't grow up in California, though.
No, I grew up in New Jersey, and then went to undergrad in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, which is kind of out by Harrisburg, and then moved to Philadelphia after I graduated.
Okay, and then on to LA. And how has that switch from the East Coast to the West Coast gone for you?
It's definitely different. I like LA every year that I'm here. I like it a little bit more each year.
Good.
My sister actually lives in Austin, Texas, though, now.
So. Oh, really? Does she like it?
Yeah, she's only been there for a couple years, though, but I think she likes it.
Yeah, good. Well, that's really cool. Austin, I've been here about 10 years. It's a pretty cool city. Anybody that wants to come visit Austin, you should do it. And we'll meet for a drink or something. How's that? All right. Well, let's get going on this. The first thing we're going to look at is your MAP account. And this is what it looks like. And as those of you that are MAP subscribers know, the very first thing that comes up is the dashboard. And very first thing you see on the dashboard is the GPA graph. And what we have here, I was looking at this earlier, Ashley, and I believe this is one of the best upward trend examples I've ever seen.
Yes.
It is. This is, your account is really, should be the poster child for upward trend. So it looks like that you had a kind of a slow start with the academics and stuff. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
It's actually interesting because when I've talked to people throughout this process, they like to say things like, oh, you made a mistake in college, or you had a hard time, or whatever. But really the truth is, I wasn't planning on going to graduate school. I always loved medicine, but like a lot of people, I'm sure I was told that I wasn't a good enough student. So I kind of gave up that hope back in high school. And so grades have just never motivated me that much. I loved learning, but I wanted to be a pastry cook after college, which is what I did. And so I just kind of took a bunch of random classes in college and kind of coasted through, in all honesty. So that's what that is. That's what that looks like.
Yeah. I get it. But you know what I see here, however, is this trend, and that is emphasized even more by about the last several semesters. And as my understanding from looking at your information, you were in a post-bac program of some type. Is that right?
Yes, and I still am. So like many people, I lost my job at the beginning of the pandemic. So I graduated back in 2013 and have been working since then. And as luck would have it, I took a new job in the trade show industry in February of 2020.
Oh, wow.
I was about 2 weeks into that job, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to keep this job. But it was in a sense, it was kind of nice because I'm a very high mover. And so I moved from thing to thing, and it forced me to slow down. And I was applying to all these project management jobs that I didn't want to do. And I was like, okay, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And I had a moment where I was thinking about how I've always wanted to be a doctor, and those things that I felt about myself, that I wasn't smart enough or I wasn't hardworking enough, I don't feel those ways about myself anymore. And I thought that I really could do this. And so I decided to go back to school.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And you did extremely well. I mean, it looks like it's pretty damn close to all A's.
Yes, I took cell bio the summer that I decided to go back to school, just to see if I really wanted to commit to that. And going back to school after 8 years was a little bit tough. I got a B in that course. But besides that, I got an A- in Gen Chem 2, but besides that, all A's.
Right. Good. Well, I'm sure that was extremely encouraging to yourself, to really feel like that all those things that you thought about yourself, not being a good student or whatever, were really not true at all.
That's exactly what it was. It was just incredibly validating. A lot of people talk about the imposter syndrome that goes on with, it sounds like pre-meds through to doctors.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not sure it ever goes away.
No, yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
But yes, it was incredibly validating. And every, cause I'm on quarters, I'm like, every quarter I think, well, that was great that you got A's again, but this might be the quarter that you can't. And then every quarter I just take it one class at a time and I'm able to do it. And it's been really encouraging.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure it kind of feeds off itself, doesn't it, in terms of the energy that you get from doing well in school, and it provides more energy for the next go round, and et cetera. So That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the AMCAS GPA calculation here for your science GPA, which is really what we want to really concentrate on here, is a 3.67, and that's awesome. That's really going to, I think, say to the medical schools that you can do the work. That you've really been committed in the classroom, and that you've really shown that you can, do the work at a level that should be impressive to them. So that's great. Congrats on that, for sure.
Thank you.
While we're on the issue of metrics, let's go down and look at the MCAT and kind of talk a little bit about where you are on that. So I see that you have quite a few practice MCATs that you've done there, all the way since last September, and now you're using Blueprint for this. Is that right?
Yes. I was trying to decide whether I wanted to self-study, and with trying to fit everything that I'm trying to do to build my whole application into a short period of time, I was like, I need someone to point me in the right direction. So tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. But I've loved Blueprint. It's been great.
Good. Yeah, that's really fantastic. So looks like, from just kind of glancing at this, you've got a really nice upward trend in terms of those practice exam scores. You kind of started off with 495 with a diagnostic, which is not a bad diagnostic at all. I would say that's actually a pretty strong diagnostic score. And then you've gone up to where your last one is a 510. I'm sure that's you're very pleased with your progress.
I genuinely thought my goal score was a 508, and I thought that was being generous. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to reach that. I'm sure it's completely tied in with the GPA, just this feeling that
right.
I'm not the type of person that would be going to medical school, and so I'm just blown away by the MCAT scores, and I'm so excited. And now I'm trying to decide what my goal score should be, but yes, I think I've taken 7 now, because I'm the type of person that likes to be very sure of something before I do it. So
sure. Well, what I would say is keep up the good work. Now you are set to take it in April. Is that right?
April 9th.
Yeah, good. So you still got, a couple of months I guess 1 month, a little over 1 month to study and prepare and stuff like that. But that's great. You're in a good position with that. I would say, 510 is a great solid score, and if a good target score. But I would say, depending on kind of how things go over the next couple of weeks or so with your testing, the practice tests and stuff, definitely I would say shooting for a 510 is not unreasonable. Maybe even set your target a little higher than that. I think that would be a great idea.
I'm definitely itching to take my first AAMC because I've obviously been saving them for the last month, but I'm so anxious to see how it's translating to the AAMC.
Sure. Good. Yeah. And, I would say, that, your trajectory really suggests, some good stuff going on there. And so keep it, just keep it up, keep with the blueprint plan and do continue to do what you're doing. So, that's really great.
Thank you.
Let's look at your activities. I noticed that you have a lot of them. I think
I just put everything on there.
Yeah, right. I think the dashboard said that you have 19,000 hours of activities, and we're going to look a little bit about kind of what that is. So let's look at the activities real quick. And so what I see here first is obviously there are employment things on there that you are going to indicate, but it looks like you've also done some quite a bit of community service type of things. Is that right?
Yes, I've been volunteering with Meals on Wheels for about 2 years now. And then as soon as I had been actually wanting to do this for a while, but as soon as I decided I wanted to go into medicine and I was committed to this path, I got myself trained as a domestic violence advocate.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that I can better identify patients who might not be using their words to display that they might be victims of domestic violence, and then also to better interact with trauma-informed care.
Yeah, that's awesome. And has that been a really enjoyable kind of activity for you?
It is.
Maybe enjoyable is not quite the right word, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yes, it is definitely fulfilling.
Fulfilling, good word. Yeah.
1 second, I dropped my headphone.
Yeah, no worries.
I think the hardest part is it comes out of nowhere. So I work as an EMT at with an events company, and we were working a concert, and we had someone come forward, and it's one of those moments that you're just not prepared for it. You're not in the headspace, so it's hard. But I'm happy that I have the knowledge that I can try and help people.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Awesome. So let's talk about, you said you're an EMT, and tell me a little bit about that.
First of all, I just love emergency medicine. So
Good.
I definitely wanted to get clinical experience that way. But also I really wanted to get clinical experience where you were directly interacting with the patient. Because when I first was trying to decide whether I wanted to go down this path, I did a ton of research, and medical scribe seems to be a really popular way to get clinical experience. But I really wanted to interact with patients myself.
Right.
And so EMT just fit.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you enjoy that?
I do. I love it. Unfortunately, I can't work 911 because they want you to have open availability, but I'm hoping to do that next year during my application year, hopefully.
Right.
But even if I apply the next year, once I'm done with classes, I'm planning on trying to get a job with a 911 service.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in a very large metropolitan area like LA, you shouldn't have a problem getting on, with the 911 system and EMS, and really enjoying that and doing well with that. Lots of other things that we have here. I noticed you are a photographer. You like photography, is that right?
Yes, that's one of those things that I wouldn't say I'm a great photographer, especially I don't love taking pictures necessarily, like framing pictures, but I love developing film and developing prints. So I took a bunch of classes in college, and then I went to summer camp when I was a child, and I learned how to work in a dark room there. And so I just love to work in a dark room.
Nice. Is there anything in particular that you like in terms of taking pictures of certain things, or do you like certain kinds of photographs that you kind of tend to move toward when you're developing them?
I think definitely pictures of nature is what I tend towards. And then I think my advanced photography class final project was parts of the body, but kind of abstract framing of it. So it became almost like abstract grayscale pictures, where you couldn't really identify that it was body parts.
Yeah, sure. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, very cool. You got some other interesting things on here. Gardening. I'm a big gardener, so I like to see that. Oh yes, I love my patio or my balcony on my apartment is full of plants and stuff. And here in the South, it's easy to do that. Yeah, it's a really wonderful thing. So
I know, especially when I moved from the Northeast to the Southwest, I was like, every tree has food on it here.
Yes, right. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
That's great. And you're a runner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I another thing that I picked up kind of later in life, a couple of years ago, but love it. I'm actually training for an ultra marathon with my friends right now.
Now you'll have to define that for me. I've never heard of an ultra marathon. What does that mean?
Ultra is anything greater than the 26.2 marathon distance. So I had wanted to do a 50 miler, but that might have been too much. So I'm doing a 50K, which I think is 32 miles.
To me, this just sounds like incomprehensible to me, because I have a hard time driving 30 miles, much less running 30 miles. Good.
My first marathon, it was a point-to-point in Phoenix, Arizona, and they were driving us out into the mountains, and I was like, oh my God, we're still driving. How far away is this?
That's funny. Oh, wow. Let's see what else we've got here. I see you talked about the Meals on Wheels and other things here. Tell me a little bit about what is TCAB volunteer. What does that mean?
That I'm volunteering at Cedar's main campus in Beverly Hills or Hollywood. They have a program called Transforming Care at Bedside. So that way you get to be more at the bedside around patients than necessarily just doing paperwork and stuff like that. But unfortunately, it's COVID, so a lot of it is still kind of clerical. But I do get to answer we have a one main phone where all the patients can call and they can ask for help on things. So I still get to answer that. And so I get to hear a lot of what patients need from us and what their concerns are and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. That must be interesting work, the variety of questions you get. Yep. Interesting. Good.
And also it's interesting. So in the ER, I'm moving nonstop, right? Which I absolutely love. I like to joke that I'm like a shark. If I stop moving, I'll die. But when I sit down at the desk here, you get to just listen. You can observe everything and listen to what all the nurses are saying, the doctors are saying, the patients. And so it's amazing the things you can learn when you just sit quietly and act like a sponge.
Yeah, absolutely. Got some shadowing hours as well, which is always beneficial. And you've had maybe a difficult time at that. Most students have, in terms of finding shadowing opportunities. Has it been kind of tough for you to find things, or no?
Definitely. All my hours are virtual. And I don't know if other pre-meds feel this way, but I'm still concerned about whether they're going to accept those virtual hours or not. But for a while we were in COVID, so you weren't able to get in anywhere. And then I realized just how difficult it is to get doctors to allow you to shadow sometimes. So I'm still trying to, because I don't have any doctor friends or family, so I'm trying to figure out a way to make a relationship with the doctor so they let me follow them around.
Yeah, it takes a lot of effort. You're right, and but you keep plugging away. But I think that the medical schools understand that the limitations that COVID imposed on this activity, and you've got a lot of other volunteer and clinical experiences that I think will be impressive to the admissions committees. And so I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. I think that you've done what you could do, and that's all you can do. And the medical schools understand, as I said, these limitations, and they really get it. They have been within the midst of COVID just like everybody else, and have felt the impact of it, and know what the difficulties are, and have been. And so I would just say, do what you can do, and don't let it affect you too much. That's been a difficult go in finding those. I think you've filled in the gaps the best you could with clinical stuff that is going to be really probably more meaningful than the shadowing anyway. So
that's so great to hear. That's so relieving.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm a project manager, so I had my list of the things that were required, and I'm trying to check boxes, but not in the way that we use it in a negative connotation. But I was definitely worried about the lack of shadowing.
Yeah, I get it.
Also, in the ER, when doctors are doing procedures, they let me. I always run up and I'm like, can I watch you do this? And they let me. So it's
that's
sort
awesome.
of half shadowing.
Yeah, there you go. That's great. And then you've got a lot of hours as a pastry cook, and that's where you kind of had resided in your career and stuff for quite a while as a pastry cook. And so is that something that you really enjoy doing, as well as what you were doing in the past?
Sorry, the internet broke out for a second. I missed your question.
Just about your work as a pastry cook.
Oh, yeah. I loved that. I really love to work with my hands. After I got out of college, until only just maybe two or 3 years ago, I only worked jobs where I was running around and using my hands and on my feet, and that's how I prefer to work. I think, which is partially why I'm so drawn to medicine. You're doing things, you're doing tangible things. But I loved being a pastry cook, making beautiful things and making people happy with desserts.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love desserts.
I'll have to come to Austin.
Yeah, right. Bake me a cake or some cookies or something. That's great.
Yes, my favorite thing to make is ice cream.
Oh, really? I love ice cream. My favorite is coffee. Just so you know, my favorite is coffee ice cream. So
I'm putting that out down right now.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah. I actually, my college interviews, I brought a cheesecake to my interview of the school that I wanted to go to, and I'm sure it helped.
Interesting. That's great. Let's look for just a second at the schools that you have identified, and put this here. And we have mostly MD schools with a spattering of DO schools as well, and they look like they're pretty much all over the country. Am I getting that pretty correct?
Yes. This is definitely a first pass at a list. I was picking locations that I had some sort of tie to.
Yeah.
So I have ties to Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, Los Angeles. I have family in Oregon. I have some family in Arizona, because I know it's from what I've heard, med school is just tough to get into, right? But private schools are tough to get into because they're exclusive, and then public schools are tough to get into if you're an outside student. or an out of state student.
Right.
So I was only looking at places that I had a reasonable tie to, because I thought that would be more meaningful to schools if I chose to apply there.
Yeah, and that makes total sense to me. And so, but you are interested in applying DO as well as MD.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Great. So you got 38 identified right now. What is your target number in terms of number of schools that you might apply to?
It's interesting because I listened to almost all of the MAPS/med school headquarters podcasts, and I've heard people talk about how ridiculous it is that people apply to so many schools. And so I was thinking maybe I'd apply to less, but also as a non-traditional student with a not great GPA, I was thinking that more is probably better.
Right.
So I work with a guy where I volunteer in the ER, but he works there, and he applied to 40 schools this last cycle. And I'm just like, yeah.
That is great. That is definitely, I've heard of, I had a student one year that applied to 32, which I thought was a pretty large number. 40 is, wow, that's expensive to apply to that many schools. Yeah. For a lot of students, the financial part of it comes into play, because there's so many schools that they, it's just expensive, particularly when you start racking up all those secondary application fees. It really becomes kind of an expensive process. And so, but that's good. I mean, I think that's a great way to do it in terms of geographically places where you have a connection or have some sort of meaningful, linkage or whatever. I think that's a great way to do it. And so I'd encourage you to, continue with that. I think, having family in the area where there's a little bit of a support network that you can, kind of rely on at times can be very helpful in the midst of medical school. And so that's a great way to do it. Great. Well, so let's kind of talk just, general terms, kind of about my thoughts here. What I would say, Ashley, is that I'm very encouraged by what I see on your MAPS account. I think that you're definitely going in the right direction. You've shown that you can do the work in the classroom. I think your MCAT score, my anticipation would be that your MCAT score is going to be solid. I would say that the work that you've done with Blueprint, the work that you're doing on the MCAT is gonna pay off. And so the challenge is to really try to not get too nervous on that day. Obviously, that's a big battling point for most students. And but I would say have confidence in yourself and your abilities. Don't let it overwhelm you. Do what you can before the date gets here. You've done a lot of work over the past 9 months or so, and I would say that you'll go into that. But the key here is to go into it in a way that is healthy in terms of your mental health as well as your physical stamina. So just for whatever it's worth, deep breaths, in with the good air, out with the bad air. This is a really important thing to stay, just keep breathing. Don't forget to breathe. And, but setting that up as to be successful will be helpful. Do some relaxation techniques the week of your taking the exam. So you're set up to take it on a Saturday. So I would say for the week right before the exam, you need to be scaling back on your studying, not as much studying. Maybe that week early in the week, one practice exam. And then the rest of the week, you're just kind of touching base with the areas on the latest practice exams where you've had, issues or you feel like you need more practice. And then I would say my big thing is the day or two before your actual exam. So that Thursday and Friday, you need to be doing very little study and a lot of relaxation. Go out to eat with friends, go to a movie, have a game night, just anything that get your mind off of it that will help you to relax. It's very counterintuitive because you're going to want to study up until the last second. But don't do that because all it does is increase anxiety. So, relaxation stuff, get a good, good rest, eat well, and prepare yourself emotionally and mentally for that. And I think that's always very helpful. But my feeling here, Ashley, is I would definitely encourage you. My feeling is that I definitely give you a green light for applying this year. I think that you've done all the right work. You've done the things that you had to do. You've gone back to school and done well. You're showing a great deal of effort and success on the MCAT. You've prepared yourself in terms of clinical activities, and you've done a lot of community stuff, which the medical schools really love to see. And so I think you've really done all that you needed to do. And so, I really think that this year you ought to, take your shot and see what happens. So, go for it.
I'm so excited. My biggest, can I bring up my
absolutely,
concern?
Absolutely.
So my biggest concern, and I thought you were going to bring this up, is I'm only 2/3 of the way done with my prereqs.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Is that?
Yeah. Well, now
So
tell me, what are you taking?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm taking physics and biochemistry right now. And then because we're quarters, physics is broken down into 3 classes. So, and then I'm taking physics and the organic chemistry lab next quarter. The concern is that next quarter, because it's quarters, grades come out at the end of June, which is just, it's later than I wanted to apply. And so I'll have this quarter's classes done, which will be about 75% done with prereqs. But if I wanted to apply early, which I do, I'd be missing 2 quarters worth of classes.
I don't think that's a problem. It's certainly not going to be a problem for the medical schools. They don't really care about that. If you've done well on the MCAT, if you've done the well in the courses that you have taken, then I don't think that's going to be a big deal. The prereqs are prereqs for admission, not for admission, but for actual enrollment. And so it would not be necessarily unusual to see an applicant that had not maybe had a certain course or whatever. And if you're doing this strongly on the MCAT, even having not taken some of the coursework yet, then I don't think that's problematic at all.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I really encourage you, Ashley, to move forward and go for it. And there's always next year if you don't get in or you're not successful. But, my anticipation would be, I think you're going to get some attention from the medical schools and depending on the group that you apply to and stuff like that, once you make that decision. But if you will, I think I would go ahead and apply as early as you want to. And then you'll update your application with the transcripts once that last quarter is done for the spring quarter, and then you'll be able to send those transcripts to AMCAS or to ACOMAS and then see what happens. But I definitely think you should. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to go for it this year.
Oh, that's so comforting. Thank you so much.
Well, good. I'm glad that that it is meaningful for you. But I hope that that you have a successful year. I certainly would ask you to keep us informed, keep us updated a little bit on how things are going, and we always love to celebrate with our students when those interviews come through, and then obviously when the acceptance letters get out, then that's a really exciting time for you guys, and we love it too. And so just keep us posted on how your progress is.
Absolutely. It was
Good.
interesting.
Well,
You had an appointment available a couple weeks ago, right
mhm.
on my birthday, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, that might
wow.
be fun to do on my birthday." But I was like, "If he tells me not to apply, I don't want
It'd be
that
a
can't
real,
be on
but
my birthday."
yeah, real
Yeah.
downer, right? Exactly. Exactly. That's
Happy
funny.
birthday.
Yeah, right. Happy birthday. Don't apply this year.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's good. That's
Happy
good.
birthday, you're not ready yet.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you, Ashley, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and best wishes to you in your journey. And good luck on the MCAT in a little over a month. And I encourage you to really, you were mentioning earlier about the imposter syndrome, and I will tell you, you're exactly right. And I will tell you this, that every pre-med has imposter syndrome. Every medical student has imposter syndrome, and most doctors have imposter syndrome. And so, I would just say it's a part of the process, and to not let that eat you up, but just go for it, and really a lot of good positive self-talk is always very beneficial to really help build yourself up, and say, I can do this, and I've shown myself that I can do this, and I love it, and I want to go for it, and just really positive self-talk I think is very helpful.